Along the coastline of modern-day Tamil Nadu, the landscape is defined by ancient stone silhouettes that have survived over 12 centuries of salt and wind. These monuments were left by a dynasty whose origins remain a subject of intense historical debate. Following a 3rd century power vacuum in South India, the Pallavas emerged as a dominant force, though scholars still question whether they were local Dravidian leaders or migrants from the north. As the dynasty expanded, their method of rule changed. Territorial conquest was followed by a distinct effort to anchor their presence through construction, shifting the focus of the state toward creating physical and cultural permanence. King Simhavishnu became the first to consolidate this power, defeating the rival Cholas and establishing the capital inland at Kanchipuram. This military stabilization provided a secure environment for a transition in building materials, moving away from perishable wood and clay toward the use of granite. King Mahendravarman I took the throne in 600 CE, entering a reign defined by his devotion to the arts and a recurring violent conflict with the Chalukya king Pulakeshin II. Under these pressures, Mahendravarman introduced the first phase of Pallava stoneworking. Instead of building with separate blocks, artisans carved temples directly into living mountain faces. This cultural expansion extended to literature. Mahendravarman was an accomplished playwright, authoring Sanskrit theatrical comedies even as he managed the defense of his borders. His successor, Narasimhavarman I, known as Mamala, eventually defeated Pulakeshin II, securing the dynasty's northern frontier. With the Chalukya threat diminished, Mamala moved the architectural focus to the coast. At Mahabalipuram, his builders began sculpting entire freestanding Rath temples from single, massive boulders. This chart illustrates the maritime reach of the empire during this period. Mamala utilized a powerful navy to secure trade routes that linked the Indian coastline to Indonesia and Cambodia. By combining monolithic art with naval reach, Mamala turned a regional port into an international center of trade and culture. Architecture evolved again under Narasimhavarman II. Builders moved beyond the limitations of existing rock formations and began quarrying individual stone blocks to build upward from the ground. The shore temple at Mahabalipuram was the result of this transition, featuring tiered granite towers that required a sophisticated understanding of structural weight. In Kanchipuram, the complex, multi-shrine layout of the Kailasanatha temple established a new standard for religious architecture in the region. This administrative hierarchy funded these projects. The king sat at the top of a system delegating responsibility across provinces and smaller districts. At the base were autonomous village councils. These bodies managed resources, taxation, and land justice, providing the economic stability necessary for long-term construction. This stability also supported a bilingual literary culture, where scholars like Danton worked in both Sanskrit and Tamil. The result was a period where effective local governance and royal patronage worked in tandem to produce the region's first major structural stone temples. By the 9th century, the geopolitical landscape changed. No empire in the region maintained its borders indefinitely, and the Pallavas began to lose territory. The state collapsed under simultaneous military pressure from the Rashtrakutas to the north and the rising Chola Empire to the south. While the Pallava political entity disappeared, their technical innovations in stoneworking were adopted by the very empires that conquered them. The Cholas utilized the original Pallava blueprint, expanding upon these foundational techniques to build even larger, more complex monuments. Today, the Pallava political borders are gone, but their engineering remains visible in the granite foundations and tiered towers that still define the landscape of South India.